Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. I'm your co-host, Duncan. I got Arnell here with me. And on the Firebelly Social Show, we speak to founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage companies. And so I'm super excited about our guest today. Arnell, what's up?
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to this latest episode of the Firebelly Social Show. We have a great show lined up for you today, talking with Tim, co-founder of frozen custard brand Mammoth Creameries. This episode is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more.
Thank you, Arnell, and welcome, Tim. Tim Krauss is the co-founder of Mammoth Creameries, and he is a dad, and he's what we would call a situational entrepreneur. Tim, please be very welcome. So glad to have you.
Hey, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Super stoked to be here. Been looking forward to this now for some time, so I'm glad the day has come.
Awesome. And Tim, you and I have something else in common. We're both immigrants. And so you came from Germany, I came from India. How old were you when you came?
Yes, I was about 14 years old. A lot of people that find out that I'm from Germany are like, oh, there must be some military something. And nope, actually there's none. My dad was a IT executive, and he got promoted to a company that was headquartered in Austin, Texas. And so, the family made the move across the sea, I suppose. And that's how we ended up in Austin.
Well, that's super cool. What's the genesis of Mammoth Creameries? How did you go from all the things you were doing before to starting an ice cream company?
Yeah, so it's it's a little bit of a story, but you kind of teased it with the situational entrepreneur remark in the very beginning. It was we were dealt we were dealt a card that we had to play, and we were trying to use what's available in the market today to help our situation. And when I say situation, right, I'll bring it back a little bit to give you guys a little bit deeper insight. So about 10 years ago, I found out I was a type 1 diabetic, complete surprise, no diabetes in my family, don't know anything about it, no exposure besides, what the commercials on TV and the radio talk about, and, 8th grade health class talks about diabetes. But, in my life, I maybe knew one diabetic. So I absolutely knew nothing about it, and then got really sick and found out I was a diabetic. And in shocking news, the way I was educated on how to live my life in the hospital during that time was below average. I think it's the best way to put it. And there's no guidance, real instructions. They taught me how to inject insulin, and then they're like, go on your way. And anyways, so I was at that time, I was living I guess what most Americans would consider a very normal life from a nutritional standpoint. I eating pizza and drinking beer and ice cream and I was consuming food without really a purpose other than I like it, right? And before I was diabetic, and I guess age, of course, also plays a little bit into this, because when you're younger, you probably get away with, eating an extra slice of pizza compared to now. But I was just, I was really sick. I found out I was diabetic. Then I was treating diabetes and doing everything I was doing before, but I was still feeling sick, maybe even worse. And I didn't understand what's going on. And I was unhealthy, and I was gaining a lot of weight. Like, I don't know, something was going on, and I didn't really understand it. And, at one point, my wife actually, she was like, hey, I think we need to make a change in our nutrition, because it just, you're eating a lot of carbs, you're taking insulin, and here's the results of something's got to change. And so we kind of overhauled our, view into just everyday nutrition, and just, it started real mellow, cutting out beer or cutting out pizza, or maybe just, pizza 1 day a week instead of 3 days a week, just really, really easy, gradual transition. But in this world of diabetes, like little transitions like that have an immediate impact, right? The second you consume less carbs than you did before, positive impact on the way you manage your blood sugar. And so we saw immediate results, and so I was feeling real bad, and I started to get a little bit better. And as I was starting to feel better, I got more and more motivated to clean up my nutrition, because the cleaner it was, the better I felt. And I was like, well, who doesn't want to feel good, right? Every day. And so it was this exercise of cleaning up nutrition and exercising, that ultimately got me back to where I wanted to be, at a healthy weight, very active, competitive athlete across many different things. And yeah, so it was great. We made that change as a family. So it wasn't just, me and the kids are slamming cheeseburgers all the time now. So we did it as a family, and it was a pretty easy transition, actually. Kids aren't that good of negotiators, right? They have an opinion, but you can convince them to go the other way pretty quickly, right? So they're like, well, we want French fries. And I was like, absolutely. So do I. But we're having, steak today, right? And sweet potato or something. And they got on board. And so it was, a family initiative, which helps. And so we were doing that for many years, and it's all good. But, I don't want to say we were ahead of the time of, like clean eating, 3 times a day, and then really trying to minimize our carbohydrate intake. But, at retail, as far as the like ready to eat or ready to drink category goes, there was nothing available, right? So everything we're consuming, we're making from scratch. And that's, that's fine, right? I would tell you should cook as much as you can over going out to eat. But, the reality is there are situations where you're like, I don't want to cook. That's, I have 4 kids, and they're, from elementary school into college. And like, they're just days where I'm like, I would literally, I'd rather go, I'd rather poke my eyes out than having to start thinking about what's for dinner. But, for a long time, there was no option. And so as the industry, the market, I guess, or the society kind of starts catching up and understanding the benefit of clean eating, right? So you got Whole Foods leading the charge with, more better for you food across every aisle than conventional stores. Everybody kind of starts getting it, right? And not that everybody is eating this way, but from a consumer standpoint, I have more options available at the grocery store than ever before. Well, really awesome, right? So that's great. But, ultimately after a few years, and it's not that you miss necessarily desserts or sugar, but, for me, it's always been ice cream, right? I've been an ice cream consumer all my life. It's my favorite dessert. Growing up in Germany, that was within walking distance was like this. It wasn't necessarily an Italian neighborhood, but it was like a section of our town where a lot of Italians live. And so there was all these gelato shops, right? And so as a kid, during the summer, man, I kid you not, every day we definitely went to get ice cream, sometimes twice a day. It's just, that's, some people like potato chips, some like sour candy. I like ice cream, right? And all variety, right? So there's not I'm not like, it has to be gelato or it has to be custard. No, I guess the only ice cream I won't eat is vegan ice cream, simply because that is a hodgepodge of chemistry that, I just won't subject my body to. But anyway, so as we're like, deep into this better for you, eating for you journey, I'm like, I really want some ice cream. And, being a diabetic, there's many things that play. Sorry, guys, there's a lamp right next to me. The bulb burned out a week ago, and it just turned on. Okay. Sorry. Anyways, then, okay.
Your background is covering it perfectly.
Yeah, so maybe our house is on fire. Who knows? Maybe some short knot. Anyways, so so I really wanted to get into some ice cream, and again, and traditionally I was like, since when we moved to America, I was like a big Ben and Jerry's guy, Haagen-Dazs. Any and everything, right? Because there is great variety and options out there. There is. Unfortunately, though, they have a combination of sugar, fat, and just other ingredients that, none of them are good for you, especially in the combination that they're, being offered to the consumer. And so we're just looking for, better for you ice cream that isn't plant-based, because, I'm a big believer actually that, not saying plant-based isn't good for people, but I think when it comes to dessert specifically, I think it's a pretty fine line. It's, sometimes I feel like people think just because it's plant-based, it's good for you. And that's certainly not true with anything, right? Like that's just not, that's like assuming it's like, well, this is a diet Coke versus a regular Coke, so this is good for me, right? So and I feel like people need to really, be aware of that, right? So don't always trust the label. Look at the ingredients. Anyways, and so we're going through the grocery stores looking for an ice cream that kind of caters to what I think I want, or not just what I want, but what I need to manage blood sugar and continue this way of living. And there's really nothing. There's one brand, and I won't call them out, but it was like it's a low carb ice cream, big on the container, and it's a legacy brand. So they make this ice cream, but also just like traditional sugar ice cream, and they've been around for a long time. And I was like, let's give it a try. I was a little bit cautious because looking at that ingredient label, I was just like, wow, like I'm surprised I don't have to sign like a waiver before consuming this, because the ingredients are just, it's going on. And, like I recognize water, milk, sugar, and then the rest, I'm just like, there's like numbers in the words, and it's like, wow, this is wild. Anyways, fast forward, we had the ice cream. It wasn't good. My blood sugar skyrocketed. So that low carb claim was bullshit. And also I just felt like I felt like I poisoned my body, because again, we were living a fairly clean way life when it comes to eating, and then consuming all these preservatives and additives in that ice cream. I felt sick, it was terrible. And so we're like, okay, well, this is not going to work. We threw the rest of the ice cream out. And so, then Susan was like, hey, how about just make some ice cream? And I was like, well, sure. She's like, yeah, I'll make ice cream without sugar. And I was like, yeah, the reason it's the retail is because it's not possible. And if it is possible, it probably sucks. She was like, well, you don't have to eat it. I was probably going a little bit too hard on her, but she's, anyways, we went to, I forget, man, like a Bed Bath & Beyond type of store, and you buy that ice cream maker for the countertop, and she made ice cream. And I think the first time she made it, I didn't even know what it was. I don't know if it would qualify as ice cream. It was frozen cream with flavor. I don't know, but it didn't affect my blood sugar. It tasted really good. And the experience felt very close to the real deal. And I was like, hey, good enough. And I don't know what it was within Sue, but she's like, hey, she just started making ice cream for us, the family, just every day for dessert and different flavors, and add an extra egg into the bat. Like, I guess she was enjoying it, like kind of like, I guess if you're a cake baker at home, right? You bake all kinds of variety of cakes, and I guess that's what you enjoy, right? And so she made it, and it was like this life cycle of ice cream where like we had this original frozen cream, and then every time it got more and more, or got closer and closer to what I would consider like a real ice cream, and then ultimately a custard, to the point where I'm like, the only reason why I know this isn't from a retail store is because we keep it in a Tupperware, right? Like that's the only difference. And then it got to the point where, so that's like the dessert that we eat all the time. And so, the kids are eating it, they're liking it. And our family, when they're over, we're like, try this ice cream Susan's making. And everyone's like, oh, it's amazing. And so, we're giving it to friends, we're giving it to family, and everybody's like, oh, that's awesome. One day I took it to work, and in a classic, corporate America move, somebody stole my lunch at work, which was my ice cream out of the freezer. Wow. But this person, it must have been a first-time thief, because I caught him, within 30 minutes. And I was like, you just ate my ice cream. And the person was like, yes, it was absolutely amazing. I'm sorry. And this person not only stole my ice cream, but he was the founder of the food company that I was working for. And so, we're kind of buddies, and he's kind of like, haha, it's kind of like a joke, right? And I was like, well, no, because this is not just ice cream. This is ice cream for me specifically, right? Like, and he's my buddy, so he knows. And, so we're giving each other a little bit of a hard time, but he's like, ultimately, man, you should start an ice cream company. This is amazing. And I was like, that's okay. Literally no interest. I'm already working in food. It's hard as hell. It's competitive as hell. And I don't even know this is like, I was selling food that was shelf stable, right? So we didn't need refrigeration, or we didn't need freezer. So I was like, absolutely not. And I went home and I was telling Susan what had happened at work. And I was like, yeah, Taylor thinks I need to start an ice cream company. And like, so stupid. And I kid you not, it might have been the next day or the day after that. I came home from work and Susan's like, started an ice cream company. It's called Mammoth Creameries. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like absolutely the worst idea. Like we know nothing about ice cream. And on top of that, we have 4 children, 2 are about to go to college. We have a mortgage, like, what do you like? We don't have any money to start a food company. And again, it's like you can start a food company and you can start a frozen food company. It is like day and night when it comes to cost, right? Because if you think about a food and beverage company, and beverages are some beverages at least are similar, the ones that need to be refrigerated, the increase of cost and overhead when it comes to shelf stable food and frozen food, I mean, it's like Ford Focus and Ferrari. That's truly the difference, right? Both are cars and both can get you from A to B, but the cost to maintain is, I mean, yeah, right? It's very, very different. And so, again, so it kind of started out as this side hustle. Not even really, right? We bought some more ice cream machines for the countertop and we're making ice cream. And then instead of giving it to friends and family, we're selling it to friends and family. We bought blank pints of Amazon and, we bought like I don't even know what it's called, like a machine. It's like a die cut machine, that can like punch out stickers, but it's actually for like fabric originally or something, some like bootleg thing. And so that's how we like made our stickers in Microsoft Word. And, and again, just for friends and family and the neighbors. And then, and people were buying it and, and it was great, but again, just for fun. And I was selling food and I had a meeting at the local Austin co-op, Wheatsville. And I was like, hey, Susan, let me take this ice cream with me to the Wheatsville. I know the guy that does ice cream there. And I'll show him the ice cream just so he can, confirm that this will never be a real company and we should just shut this down because now we're registered as an LLC. That means we're gonna have to pay taxes or at least file taxes, right? Which is like we're not making any money. So why are we doing work as though we were a real company, if that makes sense at all? So I took this Tupperware ice cream to this ice cream buyer and this guy, like, he tried it right then and there and just lost his mind. He's like, best thing ever, super on trend. We're looking for something like this. We'll take it all. And I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, well, we make this at home. Like, this is not a real thing. And he's like, oh, well, got to tighten that up a little bit, right? So like, get your ducks in a row. And when it's real, you come to me and I'll take it. And I was like, okay. And so I went home and, Susan was super stoked. And at that point I was like, well, maybe this is something. And we rented a commercial kitchen and, we drained our savings accounts and sold a car, to buy a commercial ice cream machine. And so then I was going to my regular job, like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I'd come home and we hang out with the kids, do chores and activities and put the kids in bed. And we had one daughter that was, I think she was 16 or 17 at the time, right? So she was old enough to babysit the younger kids. And so we put them to bed by 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. And then, the oldest daughter, everybody was asleep, but the oldest daughter was kind of in charge. And we would go to the commercial kitchen from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. making ice cream. And we would do that 5 days a week. And then on the weekends, we would deliver the ice cream to the neighbors, to the co-op. And then all these little Austin stores, like these bodegas and these independent stores, all were picking up the ice cream. So we got like a pretty legit side hustle. I don't think we're really making any money. We're eating a lot of ice cream for free. And it was at first it was really fun, and it's like a cool thing to do. And yeah, it's whatever. And it just like this side hustle grew so much where I was like, I'm dying. Like I cannot maintain 2 jobs. Work these I'm not kidding, like 9 to 5 corporate job and then 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. 5 days a week we'd go make ice cream. And I was like, it's like we're in a better for you product, but it's killing me, and Susan's like, yeah, I get it. And I was like, so either we're like shutting it down or maybe we double down, maybe we just commit, but again, we're at a point in our lives where it's like we can't really take that kind of risk. We've got kids, I guess we're just maybe slightly too, not that we're too old, but we're just like too mature in our lives, but not stable enough in our lives where we can take on that kind of financial risk. And as a diabetic, like why am I going to give up my 9 to 5 that gives me free health insurance when I need health insurance, right? Or I die. So there's like all these things. And so we are like on the cusp, like which way are we going to go? And we didn't know. And, you kind of like, I wish somebody would just make this decision for us. And we got an email from a Whole Foods out of the blue here in Austin. And they're like, hey, we saw your ice cream at the co-op. It's amazing. Don't worry about, any of this the normal way of getting product into our store. We just want it. When can you have it to us? And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, yeah, that's amazing. But, okay, that salesman in me came out because I was thinking, we're in a commercial kitchen. Like, this is, again, it's kind of like when I went to the co-op, right? We're making it at home. We're one step behind when it comes to like being a legit company, I guess, from a manufacturing standpoint. And, but, salesman in me was like, okay, yeah, we'll get it to you as soon as possible. And they're like, yep, good enough. And so they kind of made the decision for us what we were going to do, right? And so we sold our equipment in the commercial kitchen to pay for a first round of manufacturing. And then we had to find a manufacturer, which was like, that almost killed us simply because of the stress. And, like the concept of this frozen custard that we're making, this no sugar, high fat, like, so in the world of that type of eating, high fat, low sugar, it's not new. It's been around for 150 years. But it's not mainstream, right? So a lot of people don't know about it, especially not at the manufacturing level. The reason why there's never been that type of ice cream or custard is because the manufacturing it's new, which is scary to manufacturers. It's difficult, so it introduces all this risk to established manufacturers that are like, our business is going really well. Why would we do this to us? And so I talked to about 10 manufacturers, and 9 of them were like, nope, we're not even trying it. This is going to break our equipment. And then one manufacturer was like, yeah, okay. We've actually heard that this is like, an up and coming thing. Yeah, let's do it. Mm-hmm. And so we found this manufacturer and, we worked with them for about 6 months and they made a ton of ice cream. And, going back, I would have probably taken 3 months worth of ice cream and been like, no, this is not good enough to go to the store. Because it was like, we're under so much pressure from retail to deliver this product, which has never been manufactured at scale. And then we get somebody that tries it and they're like, yeah, what's the recipe? And I was like, here's the napkin, that we've had for our ice cream, little ice cream machine. And they're like, it's not, I was like, don't you just kind of like add one, carry the 2 and then you scale it? And they're like, no, dude, like that's not how it works. So we actually ended up hiring like a food scientist and they figured it out. But so the first 10,000 pints that we produced that ultimately went to retail were, if I could do it again, I'd be like, no, not good enough, not even close. But again, so I guess where we kind of lucked out, and they weren't bad, they're just, when I compare the business now to then, it's like, I'd be like, no, I'd rather shut the business down than ever deliver something like that. But, I guess that's kind of the situation that you're in when you're truly bringing something to market that's never been brought to market at scale. And then also you kind of like building a completely new supply chain in that frozen world, right? Because like ice cream, we have allergens in our ice cream, right? Eggs are an allergen. A lot of ice creams don't have eggs for that reason. So not only do we have eggs, we have a significant amount of eggs, right? And we use 100% grass-fed butter. It's like what ice cream at scale uses butter, right? So there's like, we're building like these new supply chains for this manufacturer. So there's all these things that I have no experience in, Susan has no experience in, and the manufacturer, like they're helping, but not really because they're like, this is crazy. And it's almost like we're always like one meeting away from being shut down because it's so crazy, right? And so anyway, we hit the shelves at Whole Food. I guess it was, March 2019. And it just, right time, right place, I guess, right? There was, at that time, we were the only product that was a frozen dessert that was not like, it was not a frozen dessert. It was an actual custard, right? Because within that ice cream category, there's different levels, right? You have a frozen dessert, which a lot of people buy thinking it's ice cream, but it actually, per FDA and before, in the ice cream world, it's, Cool Whip is not ice cream if it's frozen or not, right? But it fits in the same category, right? Because it's a frozen food. And so you have frozen custard, which is the highest quality, the most premium frozen dessert that you can buy. And then you have like a couple different levels of ice cream, like super premium, premium ice cream. And then you have frozen dessert and plant-based ice cream is the same, right? So when you buy plant-based ice cream, when you look at the carton, it'll never say, at least if I remember correctly, it'll never say the word ice cream. It'll always refer to it as a frozen dessert, frozen treat, what have you. But ice cream, there's a very clear definition by the FDA. What is ice cream? What's a frozen dessert? What is a frozen custard? And it's all, so plant-based, of course, removed because that's completely different. But, like the difference between an ice cream and a custard, for example, is the amount of egg yolk particle per 1,000 within a pint of ice cream. I have no idea what that means, but I guess it means more egg yolk in custard than in ice cream. Maybe. But anyways, right? And so we launched a company and it just took off, couldn't have imagined it in our wildest dreams. And, so 2019, we're running this ice cream company now, and we have no idea what we're doing. We're just shooting from the hip, and we're just trying to not die, I guess. And so we, a really strong year in 2019. Especially since it wasn't even a full calendar year, and then we go into 2020, and we have all these plans and all these commitments from retail, and we're building out a team. It's like it is going to be a real company, which is like, again, I'm not a natural entrepreneur, so this is all really forced and uncomfortable, and anxieties at a level that I didn't know existed. And then 2020 comes, and COVID comes, and everything is shut down. It's like, okay, so all the goals and plans that we had, not that they went away, but they changed significantly. We were going to do some fundraising, which we didn't do. And so without that fundraising, we couldn't, execute on the plans that we had made. And, it was just crazy. And so we are, I guess we're so exhausted where we're kind of like, oh man, COVID might shut us down, which is awesome. Let's shut this business down and go back to our normal lives. We gave it our best, and we can always go back and be like, hey, this is not on us. This was a pandemic thing, which is a real thing, right? Like if your business failed during COVID, your startup, it's like, no matter how terribly you might have managed that business, you don't have to, you will always know the truth. But, speaking to your buddies, you'll be like, it was the pandemic, guys. I did everything right. And so, we're kind of like, we don't really know what's going to happen. And then 2020, we had, we over-delivered on the original expectations. So we didn't raise the money. We didn't build out the team in the way we wanted, but yet we over-delivered on our revenue goal that we had. And it's like, okay, good, I guess, right? And then the same in 2021, same in 2022. And actually, so, it was just weird. I couldn't even tell you how it all worked during COVID. At the end of 2022, it did get a little bit tight because we started kind of getting some of that, there's all these problems in supply chain, and we didn't really have any problems in supply chain because, all our ingredients are manufactured in the US. And so, we weren't worried about things being on the boat from China or from Europe, everything was manufactured in the US. So great. But then it was just, it did end up hitting us, and not so much in like the raw materials, but like we were having like a hard time getting paper to make our pints. Mm-hmm. And that's weird, right? And you're like, how in a world that's so digital, how can we ever be out of stock on paper, right? There should be an abundance. But what other businesses start doing? So this business has always done really well, but what business started changing the world during the pandemic? Amazon. So we're competing against Amazon when it comes to paper. They're buying it for boxes, we're buying it for pints. And in shocking news, we are not a real competitor when it's us and Amazon, right? They don't even answer our emails. The paper manufacturer, they're like, delete. It's like and so that was a really big challenge, and I don't know how we overcame it. Susan and her team, they run all of operations. I don't thrive in that environment. I get frustrated. I start screaming, making threats. And so I've been removed from that side of the business, for better or worse. But yeah, so it's so 2022 was also a solid year, not as solid as we wanted. But all things considered, I am still a true believer that we're coming out of a time where it's like, of course, every business is always going to get judged on their revenue performance, right? But I think if you started a business around the time we did and disrupted a legacy category, so a category that's fairly been unchanged for 100 years or even longer, and you came out on the other side, I think that alone is a win, right? And so sometimes we measure success. During the pandemic, we would measure success by going to the office and flicking the switch. And if the light came on, that means the check cleared. It's like right on, here to fight another month, and yeah, that's where we are now. And 2023 has been the company's now grown to the point. So there's all Susan and I do is deal with challenges, right? That's the reality of the food and beverage landscape now. So it's it's a labor of love, because otherwise I don't know why anybody would do it. And we are a mission-driven company. So at the end of the day, everything we do, we do it for a reason. Yes, we have investors and they want to see returns and this and that. Yes, that's a real part of the business. But that's not what gets me up in the morning. I don't get excited when I come into the office because I'm like, oh, we got new distribution. I can't wait to update the investors. I actually don't give a shit. Not that I don't give a shit, but it's like, that's not important to me. What's important to me is that this new distribution is going to result in this revenue. We can take this revenue and deliver it to the mission, which is, which has evolved since we started the company. The original mission and the reason why Susan created that product was to help me, a type 1 diabetic, be able to consume a ice cream that didn't affect my blood sugar, right? So that was kind of the original mission. It's like, we're going to work with the diabetics of the world to give them a safe dessert. And this whole, high fat, low carb thing, it was kind of a byproduct, right? So where there's a lot of companies now that identify as keto friendly companies, the only reason why we put keto into our messaging is because we were so poor, and that word was trending. We're like, by default, Susan created a diabetic friendly product that happens to be keto, but that was not the idea, right? It just happened. And so we just jumped on the bandwagon because yes, we are catering to diabetics, but we're also catering to that community of people that consider themselves keto, right? And so it's
I think that's a really important mission. And it's really, I think it's really powerful. Like when you talk about your journey through your health and, learning about being diabetic, it's something that a lot of people struggle with. And then also you mentioned too earlier about, just people in general not being aware of how food and diet plays into the health and how that, basically works as medicine too. So I think that that's really cool. So really important mission that I know a lot of people can connect with. And then also, like you mentioned, not only, was it made diabetic for you, but you saw a need in the market in keto. And was able to
and so, and with that, so we were the first quote unquote keto ice cream at retail in the country. Shortly after we launched, some other companies launched, but when you're like, who was first? Mammoth Creameries. So that's the fact. And that's exciting just because, again, I don't consider myself a natural entrepreneur, and then to kind of just go all in and be a disruptor to that extent or that magnitude. It's like, I didn't even realize it until people, told me, it's like, this is what you're doing. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool, I guess, and yeah. And so now, as our mission is involved, and I think, the way we identify our mission is that the main part of the mission is to offer a product to all people that are looking to reduce or eliminate sugar when it comes to a dessert, right? So you don't have to be keto or diabetic to enjoy Mammoth Creameries. It's a product that everybody enjoys, right? And it's an easy way. Like if you're just an average day, or a non-specialty diet consumer, and you're like, everybody understands that access to sugar is not good for you. It doesn't matter if you're a cigarette smoker or a Burger King eater, right? You know what's good for you and what's not at this point in life. And if you're, a consumer that doesn't really, live a certain lifestyle when it comes to nutrition, right? Mammoth will give you the opportunity to have the same experience that you're used to, but have super clean ingredients, and reduce your sugar intake, right? So that's a win. Doesn't matter how you're going to put it. If you're going to eat the ice cream anyways, why not eat an ice cream that's truly better for you? But the experience is the same as the sugar version. And so that's the title, I guess. That's the mission, right? So that we deliver a product that addresses this. But then really what's the most important to me, and the mission overall is very important for me, but if I were to break that down one step further, and it goes back to the roots of the company, the thing I care about most is we work a lot with diabetic children, right, that have parents that are most of the time not diabetic, right? And so why is that important? I mean, I'll give you, I don't know if this is a great example. This is maybe just the easiest to comprehend. It's if you're a parent of a diabetic child and your child is 6 years old. Number one, you as a parent are like a SEAL Team 6 member because it's probably one of the hardest parenting I could ever imagine. I don't even know how people are parents of infants that are diabetics. I don't know. I don't know how that works. So the respect I have for these parents is I don't know how to communicate it. It is truly, it is something. Yeah, I don't know how to communicate it, but it's absolutely insane, right? And so, because type 1 diabetes in young children and infants, the mortality rate is significant, right? So every single day in this country, in the USA, children are dying of type 1 diabetes, which is absolutely mind-blowing in 2023, right? But that's a different conversation. And so we're offering so when your child is growing up as a diabetic, your child's going to have to make concessions. And so it's your job as the parent to be like, listen, I know all your buddies are eating this bag of chips, but, why don't you have, I don't know, why don't you have an apple? Maybe that's an aggressive example, but you get where I'm going, right? And so this child, even though it'll be a normal child, live a normal life, everything will be normal, but there'll be these situations, especially when it comes to food, where it's going to differ from what society might think is normal, right? And so our product, the way I like to look at it is like, so imagine this, man. So imagine you're a parent to a diabetic child, okay? And your child's having a birthday party and is inviting the whole neighborhood. And, your child's the only diabetic, everybody else is non-diabetic, right? And so now you can offer these kids ice cream that everybody's going to love, but you as a parent to a diabetic child, you don't have to worry about. Like, this food will not hurt your child. It will not kill your kid. You don't have to worry about the blood sugar. And depending on how much you understand about diabetes, I mean, that is the only thing better than that is a cure, right? If you can have your child have experiences in the way that everybody has them without having to worry about the potential impact on health, I mean, get the fuck out of here. Tell me what's more important than that. Tell me, because I want to know. I truly want to know, but I can't think of anything. And so that is the most important part in our work to me. And so, we love going supporting, JDRF events. And, I actually have a couple of, they're my buddies, right? These are young kids with diabetes that I'm not a mentor, but, their parents sometimes have a hard time connecting with them on diabetic related things. So they give me a call. They're like, hey, can you talk to Mav? Or they call me with questions. They're like, this is what's going on with the blood sugar. And so it's like, that's what gets me up in the morning, right? Like, that is why I do what I do. That's why we are continuously faced with challenges in the business where I think 9 out of 10 people will be like, fuck it, let's shut it down. But I'm like, no, I mean, we cannot ever shut this down because this company has a tangible impact in people's lives, right? And then where, and I don't know, it's just...
When we talk to a lot of founders, they have very similar feelings and emotions where the mission is so big and the mission is so important. There are lots of challenges and hard things, that happen in a business and which you've experienced, and it can really make you question some things. But, having that important is a really just great and exciting thing to have, as an entrepreneur in general. What would you say, or go ahead, Duncan.
Well, I think that's what I love about it is that as the founder, in many ways, protecting the vision is such an important part of your job. I mean, I can't remember the name of the company. I just read about it a couple of days ago. Our friend Arshad Bal at Amrita Foods posted it on LinkedIn about a plant-based company that has been facing some profitability issues is going to start selling meat, right? I mean, if that's not a total fucking sellout of your mission, I don't know what is, right? And so I think that we want to thank you for your courage, and the fact that you're doing what you do, because it's such an important thing. And, Hello Water, the founder of Hello Water, Rusty Jones, talks about how he's cleaning up the grocery aisle for soft drinks because he's producing a soft drink without sugar in it. And I think, you're
exactly.
It's such an important thing that you're doing. And we just, I think that it's validation for us that is the role for a truly mission-driven founder, is to protect the vision. It's like, hey, the vision is to get kids desserts that preserve the importance of ice cream in their life without compromising their need for not eating sugar. And I mean, that's just you're doing it. Bravo.
Yeah, man, and trust me, man. I mean, we've been presented with opportunities that would be very distracting many times, and even from people that back then I would have considered an advisor to the business, where at times like, hey, do what you're doing, but you also got to shift directions and do something that would have been just against everything that I believe in. And, so I understand why companies do that. And it's, in a corporate America, publicly traded company, I mean, I get it. But again, I'd rather fail than shift the mission. And, maybe that's not maybe. I understand that that's an attitude problem, but it is what it is, man. If I wanted to do something else, then I would have started a different company, but this is what I want to do.
I mean, I don't think it's an attitude problem. I think it's an attitude advantage, that if I have to fail doing what I truly believe in, then that's fine. I mean, that's why people burn the boats, right? It's like, I can't consider going back. I'm burning the boat. I have no option for failure. And I mean, it's something we can certainly.
That's it, man.
There's no option for failure.
Yeah, and and again, so with this commitment to the mission, and I'll be completely transparent. There've been times where even I was like, yeah, I think we do need to switch it up, and it's Susan who has been the Iron Maiden. She's just like, well, these all sound great, but unfortunately, as the majority owner of this company, I don't want to flex this, but we're doing what I think we need to do. And that is, we're moving forward. Even during the supply chain challenges, like there were some raw ingredients, it's like, hey, we can't, we can get this same raw ingredient from China, for example, right? And it'll cost everybody to say it's just not available to be manufactured in the US. Let's just go with the stuff from China. It's like, no, I'd rather be out of stock, which is like in a food and beverage company, there's nothing worse. But Susan is very clear. She's like, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. If we need to take a hit, then we'll take a hit. But we're not gonna have quick fixes. We're not gonna just patch things up. Either it works or it doesn't. And so there have been many times where we've made, our success. I mean, Susan and I, and she'll tell you exactly the same thing, guys. We are not talented. We're not overly smart. We are totally aware that 100% of our success comes from the people that we surround ourselves with, right? And so we make commitments to these folks that we will keep you whole no matter what, right? So like during supply chain issues, when we are having out of stocks and cash flow gets tight, right? Susan and I, we'd rather skip a payroll for her and I than having to let go two employees, right? And so what we've put on the line from a personal standpoint, I mean, if this business, if it were to go bust in the next 3 years, I mean, I'm not even sure from a personal standpoint how we would recover, but no matter what, it was worth it, and at the end of the day, and we talk about, a doomsday scenario all the time, simply because we're so invested emotionally into this business. But then it's like, okay, so if everything goes wrong, like what's the most important part in our lives, not just the business? And to me, most important part is my family, it's my kids. And that's it. And she's like, well, no matter what happens in life or with this business, nobody will ever take those kids from us. right? We will always be together until they leave, right? But there's nothing that can ever happen in our lives or within this business that would ever break up this family. And if that's truly the only thing you care about, then what you worry about? It was like, fuck, that's deep. Like, I mean, really think about that. If you truly understand what that means, even if you don't believe it, it's like, I mean, right. It puts you in a position where you can, you get in a position where, and this is across any business, if your business is struggling, you constantly put in this defensive position, right? Hey guys, I'll pay you as soon as I can. Or you constantly doing defensive moves. That's not how you build a business. That's not how you grow a business. That's not how you deliver to a mission. Not because you don't want to, because you can't. Right. And so, but when you go into every day knowing that, I mean, the worst case scenario in my head can never happen. It's impossible. Fuck, I'm playing offense. I'm never playing defense. I'm going to make commitments. I'm going to run this business as though we have a gajillion dollars in the bank, right? And that's been, just a game changer. And I didn't have that insight. I mean, that's all Susan. That's certainly, and it's a type of perspective. And it doesn't need to be kids. Like for me, it's kids, right? My kids. And everybody has theirs. And I don't know, maybe. I don't know what your guys' is, but there's something out there that is more important to you than anything else. And as long as that's always protected, I don't care what happens.
Bravo.
Maybe that was too much. Sorry.
No, man, you're on fire. We love it. It's like you got a fire burning in that belly. It's amazing. On a slightly less inspiring note, but we got to know, what is your favorite flavor?
Yeah, man. And this is going to be pretty boring, but I'm a vanilla guy, man. And I'll tell you why. And I don't care what anybody says. This is the truth. Vanilla, believe it or not, is the absolute hardest flavor in ice cream to make. And the reason why, it is so basic that either it's good or it's not. You can't cover it up with some crunchy bits or mixed flavors or put a marshmallow in there. Either it's good or it's not. And so how do you make a good vanilla? And, of course, everybody's taste is different. For me and my family, living a very clean and natural lifestyle when it comes to food, we can taste differences in natural food and synthetic food, right? It's like water and sparkling water, right? You definitely know one is different, right? I mean, you know what you're having. And when it comes to vanilla, there are 3 classes of vanilla that you can buy as a manufacturer of anything, right? Beverage or food. And you have a class 1 that's like a synthetic vanilla, so it's made in the lab. And then you got like a type 2, which is like I think it's like a hybrid, like a little bit natural, a little bit synthetic. And then you got a type 3, which I guess the average day consumer would probably recognize as like a Madagascar vanilla, right? So like truly organic from the best regions in the world that are vanilla producers, right? So Madagascar, and there's some other places. And vanilla, believe it or not, it is so unbelievably expensive, that class 3, and that's the vanilla that we buy. So when you eat our vanilla custard, I mean, it is real vanilla. Like those vanilla beans are not synthetic specks that somebody somewhere in Madagascar got a vanilla bean, cut it open and squeezed out those little, opened those pods and squeezed out those seeds into a jar and then brought it to America, right? And so it is crazy. So vanilla is super expensive. And then also, I'm not an expert at this part, but transporting pure vanilla is really expensive because vanilla is actually like, and I don't know, I'll get this right. I don't know, is it super combustible or super flammable? Maybe there is like a real hazard and danger with transporting liquid, vanilla.
Wow.
No matter if it's in your car or what have you. And that's why, when you buy pure vanilla, it's always in like glass jars that are little, like I saw, so we got vanilla and it was like a glass vat, I don't know how many gallons, say it was 100 gallons. And I mean, it looks like a chemist, went to town on this bottle. There's just stickers on there, like warning, like just crazy. And so vanilla is just like this interesting thing. But so back to your original question. So vanilla is my favorite. It's really hard to make a vanilla that's good. And I think that I always say we had nothing to do with it. I'm a consumer. That Susan and her team, they created a vanilla I don't know how you could make it any better and just clean.
That's amazing. I know that Arnell and I want to try the butter coffee, not just because it sounds good, but we also know that your butter is coming from grass-fed animals. And so the grass-fed butter just sounds amazing to us. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, and it's not. This has been an amazing conversation. Sorry we lost you for a second. We've really enjoyed ourselves. And I can safely say, after doing a lot of these episodes and a lot of these interviews, you are probably one of the most fired up, inspired people, that we've interviewed. And so we just don't want you to lose that fire, and thank you so much. How can people find the company?
Yeah, so we got a webpage, of course, mammothcreameries.com. We got all social media channels. At Mammoth Creameries. That's probably the best. Well, we got store. If you're into the product, want to try it, we got a store finder on the webpage that's constantly changing. So in advance, if there's a store on there and you go there and it's not in there, sorry. The chance that there's a store in your neighborhood that has it and it's not, on the finder also is good. So we're doing our best keeping that thing current. But we also have an e-commerce store. If that's your jam, I guess that's an option, and we are really good at that. We actually have a very healthy e-commerce business, which again in ice cream is absolutely crazy, because I don't know about you, but I've never bought ice cream online. I didn't even know it's a thing until, I was informed this is what we're doing. And I was like, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. Nobody's going to do it. And I could not have been more wrong.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. Sorry if I get I'm so passionate about what we're doing.
No, that's totally fine. We love it. Thank you. And Arnell, you taking us out?
Definitely. This episode is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more.
And once again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We've had Tim Krauss from Mammoth Creameries, that's really driven by mission and the man's passion and how compelled he is to help children and make people's lives better. His family and also real ingredients is just so inspiring to us. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.